The red dust of Mars swirled outside the observation window as Captain James Walker studied the strange readings on his screen. Something wasn't right. The sensor array had been picking up odd energy signatures for weeks now, but this was different. These patterns looked deliberate, almost like they were testing Earth's detection capabilities. Walker took another sip of his coffee and leaned back in his chair. Humanity had come a long way in the past 50 years. The Mars colony now housed over 10,000 people. Europa's mining operations were bringing in precious metals by the ton, and the first deep space exploration vessels were ready for launch. Everything was going according to plan, perhaps too well. He pressed the comm button on his desk. "Dr. Thompson, could you come to the observation deck? There's something you need to see." Within minutes, the head scientist arrived, his usual neat appearance slightly disheveled from working late in the labs. "These energy signatures," Walker pointed at the screen. "They're getting bolder. Whatever's out there isn't even trying to hide anymore." Thompson nodded, his expression grave. They both knew what this meant. The Watchers had finally decided to make their move. Earth's apparent technological progress had been carefully orchestrated for centuries. While the public saw a steady, reasonable advancement of technology, hidden facilities across the solar system had been preparing for this very moment. The Galactic Council's observation ships had been detected long ago, their cloaking technology useless against Earth's true scanning capabilities. Across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out. On Europa, Mining Chief Laura Peters watched as her instruments detected multiple objects dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. The Council's ships, thinking themselves invisible, positioned themselves in attack formation. Peters smiled grimly as she activated the subspace beacon, sending coded warnings throughout the solar system. Back on Earth, in the deep underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Thomas reviewed the incoming data. The Council was moving exactly as predicted. Their arrogance, their certainty that humanity was just another primitive species to be controlled or eliminated, would be their undoing. The signs of the coming attack were everywhere. Communications satellites reported mysterious interference. Council ships testing Earth's networks. Power fluctuations hit the lunar bases, attempts to gauge human energy technology. Trade ships reported navigation issues near the asteroid belt. Council forces setting up their blockade positions. To any outside observer, humanity's response seemed chaotic and disorganized. Emergency meetings were called. Politicians made speeches about staying calm. Military vessels moved in seemingly random patterns, but beneath this carefully crafted chaos, a plan centuries in the making was unfolding. In his private quarters on Mars, Walker opened a hidden compartment in his desk and removed a small black device. The quantum communicator, technology the Council thought impossible for humans to possess, connected him instantly with Earth's true defense network. All observation posts reporting in. He spoke into the device. "The Council is proceeding exactly as the simulations predicted." The response came immediately. "Maintain current protocol. Continue displaying signs of confusion and disarray. Let them think their interference is causing chaos in our systems." Walker acknowledged the order and turned back to his regular duties, playing his part in humanity's greatest deception. For generations, they had waited, watching the Watchers, learning their ways, and preparing. The Council thought they were being clever, studying humanity from the shadows. They didn't realize that every move they made was being monitored. Every piece of data they gathered was carefully crafted to tell exactly the story humanity wanted them to believe. As the day drew to a close, more Council ships arrived in the solar system. They thought they were witnessing a primitive species about to receive a harsh lesson in galactic politics. Instead, they were walking into a trap generations in the making. Humanity had seen the signs of their coming and had spent centuries preparing for this moment. In the gathering darkness of space, humanity's hidden fleets waited in dimensional pockets the Council's science said were impossible. In underground bases across a dozen worlds, weapons of unimaginable power stood ready. In the minds of every key military and civilian leader, plans within plans within plans waited to be unleashed. The Council thought they were about to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. They were about to learn a very different lesson indeed. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as High Counselor Gray called the emergency session to order. The massive circular chamber, with its towering crystal walls and floating platforms, held representatives from over 1,000 worlds. Today, they gathered to discuss just one: Earth. The human problem can no longer be ignored. Gray's voice boomed across the chamber. The old counselor's face appeared on countless floating screens, his expression stern. Their rate of advancement defies all known patterns of species development. Images of Earth's recent achievements flashed across the screens. Mars colonies growing at impossible speeds, mining operations on Europa extracting resources with surprising efficiency, ships reaching further into space with each passing year. To the Council, it all seemed too fast, too coordinated, too dangerous. Admiral Reed of the Council's observation fleet stepped forward. Our latest data suggests they will achieve full galactic travel capability within 5 years. Their weapons technology, while primitive, is advancing at an alarming rate. He paused, letting the information sink in. We cannot allow another incident like the one that happened with the Lost Empire. The Council members murmured among themselves. Everyone knew the story of the Lost Empire, a civilization that grew too powerful too quickly and nearly destroyed half the galaxy before they were stopped. The Council had been created in the aftermath of that war, tasked with preventing such threats from rising again. While the Council debated humanity's fate, their spy ships continued their observation of Earth. None of them noticed how their own movements were being tracked, their communications intercepted, their very presence carefully documented by systems they couldn't detect. Back on Earth, in a hidden command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, military leaders watched the Council's deliberations through their own secret quantum network. General Thomas smiled as the Council fell into the exact pattern their behavioral models had predicted. They're going to vote for military action, he told his staff, just like they've done 12 times before with other species. The general pulled up historical records, real ones, not the sanitized versions the Council kept, showing how many civilizations had been contained over the centuries. The Council's debate grew heated. Some argued for diplomatic contact, a chance to guide and control humanity's development. Others pushed for immediate military action to crush the potential threat before it could fully emerge. Maps of Earth's solar system floated in the air as they planned their strategy, not realizing that every word, every plan, every subtle gesture was being recorded and analyzed. High Counselor Gray raised his hand for silence. We have seen enough. The patterns are clear. Humanity's advancement threatens the stability we have maintained for 10,000 years. We cannot risk another catastrophe. He turned to Admiral Reed. Prepare your fleets. We will give them one chance to submit to Council authority. If they refuse, the vote was quick and decisive. The Council, in its wisdom, chose to act. Attack plans were drawn up, fleets were mobilized, and messages were prepared. They would offer humanity a simple choice: accept Council rule or face extinction. In his private chambers after the session, Gray reviewed the final plans. Everything seemed in order. The humans would be caught completely by surprise, their defenses overwhelmed before they could mount an effective response. Their technology, while advancing quickly, was still no match for Council weapons. It would be a swift and decisive action, adding Earth to the long list of potentially dangerous species that had been safely contained. What troubled him, though he wouldn't admit it even to himself, was how quiet the humans had been. Most species at this stage of development were reaching out, trying to contact alien life. But humans seemed content to focus on their own solar system, showing little interest in what lay beyond. It was almost as if they were waiting for something. As the Council's warships began moving into position, hidden sensors throughout the solar system tracked their every movement. In secure facilities across Earth and its colonies, final preparations were made. The Council thought they were about to prevent a potential threat. Instead, they were about to discover just how badly they had underestimated the species they sought to contain. The stage was set. The Council had made their choice. Now it was humanity's turn to reveal just how ready they were for this moment. The attack began at Earth's colonies first. Council warships appeared above Europa's mining facilities in a flash of blue light. Their weapons charged, ready to demonstrate the consequences of defying galactic order. The Council commander smiled as he gave the order to fire. The massive energy beams struck the colony's protective shields, shields that shouldn't have existed. The beams splashed harmlessly against the barrier, their energy dispersing in spectacular patterns. For a moment, nothing moved. The Council ships hung motionless, their crews trying to understand what they were seeing. Mining Chief Laura Peters watched from her control room, counting silently. 3, 2, 1. Now she spoke into her quantum communicator. The colony's outer surface shifted, panels sliding away to reveal weapon ports that had been hidden for decades. Before the Council ships could react, the supposedly primitive mining colony unleashed a barrage of weapons that cut through their advanced shields like paper. But the Council's forces were vast. As the battle for Europa raged, more ships appeared near Mars. Commander Anna Miller stood at her post in the Mars Research Station, watching as hundreds of Council vessels filled the red planet's sky. The Council's message echoed through all communication channels. Submit to Council authority or face immediate destruction. Miller pressed a button on her console, sending out a response. We choose neither. The words were still echoing when the station's hidden defenses activated. What the Council thought was a simple research facility transformed before their eyes. Buildings shifted, underground bunkers opened, and weapon systems beyond their understanding emerged from the red soil. The Council forces hesitated, their tactical displays showing impossible readings. The humans were using technology that, according to all their intelligence, they shouldn't have for another century at least. But there was no time to understand how. The order to attack had been given. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes rained down on the Martian surface. Council ships moved in complex attack patterns, expecting an easy victory despite the surprising defenses. They didn't expect the quantum mines that materialized in their formation, devices that bent space itself to tear their ships apart. Back on Earth, General Thomas watched the battles unfold on his strategic display. The Council was attacking exactly as predicted, following the same tactics they used to subjugate dozens of other species. But humanity had studied those battles, learned from them, prepared for them. The Council's main fleet approached Earth, ready to deliver the killing blow. High Counselor Gray watched from his flagship, troubled by the reports from Europa and Mars, but confident in the overwhelming force he brought to bear. Earth's orbital defenses seemed primitive, satellites and small defense platforms that posed no threat to Council warships. The first wave of Council ships moved into position. Their sensors showed Earth's military scrambling in confusion, just as expected. Missiles launched from the surface, using simple chemical propulsion. The Council ships easily shot them down, not realizing until too late that the missiles were just a distraction. Earth's true defenses revealed themselves. The primitive satellites transformed, unfolding into advanced weapon platforms. Hidden bases on the moon powered up, their energy signatures dwarfing anything the Council had seen before. And from the dark side of Earth's orbit, humanity's real fleet emerged from dimensional pockets that Council science said were impossible. The Council forces found themselves caught in a trap centuries in the making. Their ships, spread out to attack Earth's surface, were now surrounded on all sides. The supposedly primitive humans had weapons that ignored their shields, communications that couldn't be jammed, and tactics they'd never seen before. In his command center, Captain Walker watched as the Council fleet realized their mistake. He could almost pity them. Almost. They had come expecting to find a young species barely reaching for the stars. Instead, they found an enemy who had spent generations preparing for this very day. The battle for Earth's solar system had begun. But it wasn't going to be the quick subjugation the Council had planned. Humanity had seen the signs of their coming, had known this day would arrive, and had made sure they would be ready. Now it was time to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when threatened. The Council's initial attack had failed. Now, humanity would show them why. In underground bases across Earth, massive doors opened for the first time in decades. Launch platforms that had been disguised as mountain ranges lifted toward the sky. What seemed like ordinary cities transformed as buildings shifted and changed, revealing their true nature as massive starships. Dr. Robert Thompson stood in Earth Defense Command's main chamber, watching as humanity's hidden strength emerged from shadow. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike," he ordered. Across the solar system, quantum communicators carried his words to every human commander. The response was immediate and overwhelming. From beneath the Pacific Ocean, a fleet of ships rose through the waves, their hulls gleaming with technology the Council had never seen. The moon's dark side opened up, revealing shipyards that had been building and preparing for generations. Even the asteroid belt came alive, as what appeared to be ordinary rocks transformed into weapon platforms and battle stations. High Counselor Gray watched in growing horror as his tactical displays showed the impossible. Human ships were appearing everywhere, using technology that shouldn't exist. Their weapons cut through Council shields like they weren't there. Their ships moved in ways that defied known physics. This wasn't a primitive species being taught its place. This was a technological giant that had been hiding its strength. General Thomas led the counterattack from his command center. The plan they had refined over centuries was working perfectly. Council ships found their advanced weapons useless against human vessels. Their supposedly unbreakable codes were being broken faster than they could create new ones. Their retreat paths were being cut off by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. In orbit around Mars, Commander Miller coordinated with the fleet emerging from the red planet's poles. Council ships that had survived the initial battle found themselves caught between surface defenses and the newly arrived human forces. Their commanders tried to send warnings to the main fleet, but it was already too late. Captain Walker's ships moved through space in perfect formation, using maneuvers that the Council's tactical computers couldn't predict. His crews had trained for this moment their entire lives, using simulators based on centuries of observation of Council tactics. Every move the Council made had been anticipated. Every strategy they tried had been countered before they even thought of it. Earth's orbit became a graveyard of Council ships. Their mighty fleet, which had subjugated dozens of species, found itself being systematically taken apart by forces they couldn't understand. Human weapons ignored their shields completely, using principles of physics the Council had never discovered. Their ships could appear and disappear at will, using dimensional technology that Council science said was impossible. In his flagship's command center, High Counselor Gray watched his fleet dying. How? He demanded of his advisors. How could they have hidden this level of technology? But he already knew the answer. The Council had been watching humanity for centuries, seeing only what humans wanted them to see. Every primitive rocket, every simple satellite, every apparent technological struggle had been a carefully crafted deception. Laura Peters, now commanding a battle group near Jupiter, smiled as she watched Council ships trying to retreat. They were learning the hard way that humanity had blocked all their faster-than-light escape routes. The dimensional nets they had secretly placed throughout the solar system were now activated, trapping the Council fleet in normal space. In the skies above Earth, the final phase of Operation Thunderstrike began. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, their weapons targeting specific weak points in Council ship designs, weaknesses they had discovered through centuries of careful observation. The Council's mighty armada, which had never known defeat, was being systematically dismantled by the very species they had come to subjugate. As the battle reached its peak, Dr. Thompson activated the quantum broadcast system. His message reached every Council ship in the solar system. You came to teach us our place in the galaxy. Let us show you instead what humanity is truly capable of." The words were still echoing when the next wave of human ships emerged from their dimensional pockets, weapons ready. Admiral Wilson stood at the bridge of the Earth flagship Defender, watching as human forces pushed deeper into Council territory. The massive ship, hidden for decades in a dimensional pocket beneath the Atlantic Ocean, led a fleet of vessels that made the Council's mighty armada look primitive in comparison. They had spent generations building this fleet, each ship designed specifically to counter Council technology. The Council's remaining ships scrambled to form defensive lines around Mars, trying to prevent what they now realized was inevitable. Their sensors showed impossible things: human vessels appearing and disappearing at will, weapons that somehow ignored the laws of physics as they knew them, and communication systems that couldn't be blocked or intercepted. "Target their command ships," Wilson ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos of battle around him. The Defender's main weapon powered up, a device that manipulated gravity itself. When it fired, space twisted around 3 Council battleships. The massive vessels crumpled like paper bags, crushed by forces their shields were never designed to resist. Back on Earth, Dr. Thompson accessed the Council's military network using codes they had collected over centuries of secret observation. Their enemies' most secure communications were an open book to human intelligence systems. He watched with satisfaction as panic spread through the Council's ranks. Their carefully ordered galaxy was collapsing around them. High Counselor Gray's flagship tried to coordinate a retreat, but found every escape route blocked. Humanity had somehow mapped all their emergency protocols, all their fallback positions, all their tactical doctrines. Each attempt to regroup was met with human forces already waiting in position. It was as if they were fighting an enemy that could read their minds. Captain Walker led the assault on the Council's position around Mars, his ships moving in patterns that looked chaotic, but were actually precisely calculated. Council gunners couldn't get a lock on vessels that seemed to bend space itself around them. Their most powerful weapons dissipated harmlessly against shields based on technology they had never even imagined. Commander Miller's forces emerged from the Martian surface in full strength now, revealing the true nature of what the Council had thought was just a research station. Massive cannons rose from the red soil, targeting the Council's support vessels. In orbit, human ships herded the enemy into killing zones with surgical precision. "How long?" Gray demanded of his tactical officers, watching another formation of his ships disappear under human attack. "How long have they been preparing for this?" The answer was written in every devastating blow, every perfectly countered maneuver, every leaked command code. Humanity had been ready for this war before the Council even knew it would happen. Laura Peters coordinated the attack from Europa, using the quantum network that connected all human forces. Council ships found themselves caught in perfectly executed pincer movements, their crews watching in horror as their most advanced weapons barely scratched human shields. Some tried to surrender, finally understanding the depth of their mistake in attacking Earth. The Council's mighty fleet, which had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years, was being systematically destroyed by the very species they had come to subjugate. Their ships fell one by one to weapons they couldn't understand, tactics they couldn't counter, and technology they had never dreamed possible. In his command center, General Thomas watched the battle's final phase begin. The Council's formations were breaking apart, their command structure in chaos. Ships tried to flee in different directions, only to find human vessels waiting for them. The carefully orchestrated trap was closing, and there was nothing they could do about it. Dr. Thompson activated the broadcast system once more, his message reaching every Council ship still intact. "You thought we were primitive. You thought we were unprepared. You thought we would be an easy conquest. Now you understand. Every sign of weakness was a deception. Every apparent limitation was a lie. We saw you coming centuries ago, and we made sure we would be ready." The Council's mighty armada, which had never known defeat in 10,000 years of enforcing galactic order, was about to learn the price of underestimating humanity. Their ships burned in Earth's skies, a testament to the folly of judging a species by what they chose to show the galaxy. The captured Council database told a story that spanned thousands of years. Dr. Thompson scrolled through file after file, each one revealing how the Council had systematically suppressed dozens of species they deemed too dangerous for the galaxy. Some had been destroyed outright. Others were trapped on their homeworlds, their technology limited, their growth stunted, all in the name of galactic peace and stability. In the Council's emergency bunker on their capital world, High Counselor Gray watched as reports came in from across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared near every major Council installation. Their fast-than-light technology was unlike anything the Council had ever seen, allowing them to strike anywhere at will. The carefully maintained order of 10,000 years was crumbling in a matter of days. "We found this in their earliest records," Captain Walker reported, displaying a document on the quantum network. It showed the Council's first observation of Earth, dating back to humanity's early space exploration. Even then, they had been watching, measuring, judging. They never realized they were the ones being studied. General Thomas walked through the halls of a captured Council warship, examining their technology with a practiced eye. Everything they found confirmed what they had known for centuries. The Council's technology, while advanced, had grown stagnant. They had stopped innovating, stopped pushing boundaries, content to simply maintain their power over lesser species. Human ships now orbited the Council's capital world. Their weapons remained powered down, a courtesy the Council hadn't shown Earth. Commander Miller coordinated with the fleet, ensuring every Council installation was covered. They weren't here for revenge. They were here to reshape the galaxy. In hidden vaults beneath the Council's Great Hall, Laura Peters and her team discovered the truth about the lost empire the Council feared so much. They hadn't been destroyers at all. They had simply advanced too quickly, threatened the Council's control too much. The Council had destroyed them, and then rewritten history to justify their actions. Every species they encountered, Dr. Thompson explained to the emergency meeting of Earth's leadership, they judged by their own standards. Any civilization that developed too quickly, that took unexpected technological paths, that showed too much potential, they were marked as threats. He displayed more files, showing how the Council had manipulated and suppressed countless races over the millennia. The Council's own records damned them. They had never been guardians of peace. They were guardians of stagnation, ensuring no species could ever challenge their power. Humanity had seen this truth centuries ago, in the patterns of their observations, in the way they treated other races. That's why Earth had hidden its true progress, showing the Council exactly what they expected to see. Admiral Wilson's fleet secured another Council stronghold, finding more evidence of their deceptions. The Council hadn't just suppressed technological growth, they had actively prevented species from making contact with each other, keeping them isolated and dependent on Council authority. Now those barriers were falling, and the galaxy was awakening to new possibilities. On Earth, the quantum network hummed with activity as humanity prepared to reveal itself to the galaxy. Not as conquerors like the Council, but as liberators. They had spent centuries preparing not just for war, but for what would come after. Plans for sharing technology, establishing communication, fostering cooperation, all had been ready long before the first shot was fired. High Counselor Gray stood in his chamber, watching through the windows as human ships hung in the sky above his capital. He finally understood what they had missed in all their observations of Earth. Humans hadn't just developed technology. They had developed wisdom. They had seen the Council's true nature and prepared not just to defend themselves, but to free the galaxy from stagnation. The Council's mighty archives, recording 10,000 years of history, now revealed their greatest failure. They had become so focused on maintaining control, on suppressing any potential threat, that they had lost the ability to recognize true advancement. Humanity had turned their own tactics against them, hiding their progress behind a mask of apparent primitiveness, waiting for the right moment to break the Council's grip on the galaxy. 1 month after the Council's defeat, representatives from 100 suppressed species gathered in Earth's orbital station. The massive structure, hidden for decades in a dimensional pocket, now served as a symbol of humanity's new role in the galaxy. Captain Walker watched as delegates from worlds that hadn't seen space travel in generations stepped off human ships, their eyes wide with wonder and hope. Dr. Thompson stood at the main podium, addressing the gathered species. "For too long, the Council kept us apart," he said, his words translated instantly by the quantum network. "They feared what we might become if we worked together. Today, we show them exactly what they feared: unity, cooperation, and progress without limits." The Council's former capital had become a museum of sorts. Commander Miller led tours through its halls, showing other species the evidence of centuries of suppression. But more importantly, she showed them humanity's gift, the technology to break free from the Council's restrictions, to reclaim their destiny among the stars. In his holding cell, High Counselor Gray watched Earth's broadcasts with growing understanding. The humans hadn't just defeated the Council, they had been preparing to replace it. Where the Council had suppressed, humanity planned to elevate. Where the Council had divided, humanity would unite. The galaxy was changing faster than he had thought possible. General Thomas coordinated the massive effort to share human technology with other species, but they didn't simply hand it out. They taught principles, shared understanding, helped each species develop their own path forward. "We're not here to rule," he explained to former Council worlds. "We're here to help everyone stand on their own." Laura Peters worked with alien scientists, showing them technologies the Council had hidden for millennia. The quantum network expanded daily, linking more worlds together, allowing species that had been kept apart to finally meet and share ideas. The Council's greatest fear was becoming reality. The galaxy was awakening and growing stronger for it. Admiral Wilson's fleet patrolled the trade routes, but not to control them as the Council had. They kept the peace while new species found their footing, protected those still developing from any who might exploit them. Human ships became a symbol not of oppression, but of protection and assistance. The truth about humanity's preparation spread through the galaxy. How they had detected the Council's observation ships centuries ago. How they had seen the patterns of suppression and control. How they had spent generations building not just weapons, but an entire infrastructure to help rebuild the galaxy once the Council fell. "We knew the signs," Dr. Thompson explained to a group of alien leaders. "Every primitive rocket we launched, every simple satellite we put in orbit, every apparent struggle with basic spaceflight. It was all a show. We built our real technology in secret, preparing not just to defend ourselves, but to help free everyone." The quantum network filled with messages from thousands of worlds. Species that had been trapped in technological stasis for generations were taking their first steps back into space. Worlds that had never met their galactic neighbors were forming alliances and trading partnerships. The Council's careful order was replaced by something more chaotic, but infinitely more alive. Captain Walker stood on the observation deck of Earth's station, watching ships from dozens of species come and go. Some were built with human help, others with rediscovered Council technology, and many with new innovations that combined both. The galaxy was evolving faster than even humanity had predicted. In the end, the Council's greatest mistake hadn't been attacking Earth. It had been failing to understand what humanity had truly been preparing for. Not just a war, but a revolution. Not just resistance, but renaissance. Not just survival, but a new age for all species. The signs had been there all along. In humanity's careful deception, in their patient preparation, in their thorough understanding of the Council's nature. They had spent centuries appearing weak while growing strong, appearing primitive while advancing beyond imagination, appearing isolated while preparing to unite the galaxy. Now, as 1,000 species reached for the stars together, the Council's fear was proven right in the best possible way. The galaxy would never be the same. It would be better.